Let's get Mom. She's gonna love this. We'll put her in the car.
I don't like this. I feel like my life is flashing before my eyes.
All right, Caitlin, let's give it one more shot. Hey guys, welcome back to 33 Mile Garage. Today we're back working on the cheap Subaru project. So one of the problems I've been having with the car is it's got the original struts, what I believe to be on the car. They got 175,000 miles on it. So right now the car is currently, when you go down the road, the rear tire will just kind of start bouncing if you hit a large bump or something like that. So it's not really the safest thing on the freeway. So I'm gonna have to make some updates to the car. I was originally thinking about buying new struts and just putting the stock struts back on the car, but that was gonna be close to $900. I thought it was a lot of money to spend on a car that I paid 1,500 bucks for. So I did some digging on eBay and found a set of Max Pedian rods. I'm pretty sure that's how it's pronounced. I'm not exactly sure though. They seem to be pretty decent. I paid $370 some shipped to my house, and I'll put the actual cost down below. I am keeping an accurate cost track on the car just to keep everybody informed on how much I've spent on the cheap Subaru that gets more expensive every day. But anyway, these are actually, they seem to be pretty good quality. The welds on them are fantastic. The material's heavy duty. You know, cosmetically, they look pretty nice. The only thing I see right off the bat on them is the top plate seems a little bit thin to me as far as thickness. If you're doing some serious autocrossing or something like that, I might be concerned about it. But to be honest with you, for my application, I've welded up my strut. My strut towers have been welded up before by someone else. I've done some welding on them also. So I'd be more worried about me punching this right through the top of the strut tower than actually this plate flexing is the least of my concerns. So anyway, that's my thought on these. I'm going to get the car jacked up, get some jack stands underneath it, and start tearing into it. I'm going to go ahead and remove these 19mm bolts to hold the struts on. When you remove these, keep in mind, if you want to get your alignment close, you probably want to mark these. I don't really care in my case because I'm going to completely redo the front alignment anyway. And to be honest with you, my stuff is so jacked up right now that it doesn't matter if I mark them or not. But keep that in mind that you want to mark the position if you want to get your alignment close when you put the car back together. Anyway, a couple other things I had to do. These things were rusted on there, and I know this is just going to be a chore all the way through. I did deep creep everything really good before I started working on this about a week ago. I let it soak in pretty good. I also, to get the fronts apart, I'm not the strongest guy in the world, but I had to use a breaker bar and a jack handle on my breaker bar just to break these things loose. I do have them loose, and the fronts did come apart without too much of a problem. The one thing that I am doing, and I'm going to be sorry, especially on the rears that I'm doing this, I did not have a 6-point 19mm socket. I'm using a 12-point, and as soon as I strip one of these bolts, I'm probably going to be crying about it, but actually being too lazy right now to go out and buy another socket. But that could be a problem for me later. The other thing that I had to do on the fronts is I also had to remove this, I think this is a speed sensor cable. So that was just a 12mm nut. I got that out of there. That was no big deal. That was pretty rusty too though. And then I also had the brake line on here. This side here, somebody had zip tied it on, but I'm gonna go back and put clips on it later. The thing I also had to remove is these 3 12mm nuts across the top of the strut. These all came off no problem. That was not a big deal to take off. Nothing was rusted up there. Around to the passenger side rear. To get at the top bolt, what I've had to do is get the caliper out of the way. That worked out pretty good. I didn't need to move the bracket. I did put a 6-inch extension on, so that got me through and cleared the caliper pretty good. Big 1/2-inch breaker bar and a pipe. Let's see how this goes. Probably going to be quite the challenge. Oh, yeah. It's breaking free, but I'll tell you, it doesn't come without a fight though. These are definitely a challenge to get out, but I'll be honest with you, the struggle is real trying to get these apart. It's a bit of hard work, that's for sure. I mean, you hear that nut snapping on there. I removed the covers off the top of here. We got 3 12mm nuts that hold the top side of the strut on. These should come out fairly easy. They don't seem like these are rusted at all. So, and my strut towers are completely rotted and been welded up. but even the top side doesn't seem to be too bad. So one of the other things you might have noticed when I was taking apart the car is I'm missing the rear sway bar. And, you know, this is an inherent problem with, you know, old rusted cars, man. It looks like this thing just rusted and fell off. The tabs broke off of it. Their bolts are still stuck up in the tail half of the frame here. So, and the dog bone pieces, looks like maybe somebody had cut those off a while back. So anyway, I'm going to either get a new bracket or I'm going to weld new tabs onto here, get this remounted. I don't want to spend all the time and effort to put new struts on and then not have sway bars too. I mean, it's just, you know, it's kind of silly to put that kind of work into it. But it was definitely a challenge to get that out. So what I got is, I think that's some 3/8 rod, and I'll just go from the back side and hit that a few times. There goes a brake pad. There we go. Pop that the rest of the way out. Another mistake I made, I shouldn't have done this. When I knocked these bolts out, I did put a nut on here, but you can see I kind of mushroomed the nut over on the bolt a little bit. I used a steel hammer. I should have used a brass hammer on this, would have done less damage to the bolt, so keep that in mind. Yeah, that was a mistake on my part. I'll run a tap through it and fix it, but probably not a good idea to do that. And then I'll just knock that out of here. And out they come pretty easy. Is on the driver's side, when I hit a bump, the strut would just kind of like vibrate down the road. So I was looking at both of them. On the passenger side, if I push the strut down, I can feel some fluid dampening. When I press the driver's side, yeah, the driver's side, when I press that one down, I just feel spring. There's no, you know, it just returns really quick off the spring. And I can also see that it looks like all the fluid drained out of it. Probably 5-6 years ago. This thing's been shot for a long time. Here's the difference. I got the front ones out. They came out without a problem at all. It was pretty much a piece of cake. There's a big size difference between them. There's like a 5.5-inch difference between the old strut that I took out and the coilover style that I'm going to put back in. So I know the front end's got some weight on it, compresses this spring a lot, but I don't know. With those bigger tires that I want to put on, I am afraid that I'm not going to have enough adjustability with these. But we'll see what happens when I get it all together. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to assume that these were set at the correct ride height. I just pulled them off. I'm gonna back these out about 10 turns, which gave me somewhere about 1 inch or 25 millimeters. All right, so that is about 1 inch taller than what I think is factory ride height. As far as all the strut mounts, I haven't tightened anything up. I got the cam bolts in. I just got the nuts on them right now. I'm not going to tighten them up until I figure out what I'm going to do with ride height yet. I might have to take some stuff apart. I can already see that this thing is sitting, the hub assembly is sitting a lot higher, which is going to make the car ride lower. So as far as my plan with the other wheels, I think it's going to be a tough deal. But let me get the wheels on and go from there. All right, now that I got the wheels and tires on the car on the ground, it's actually kind of funny. So the fronts, actually there's no spring at all in the fronts because it's actually sitting, the wheel's sitting right down on top of the fender. So nothing's moving there. I can adjust the ride height up. I think I can get another inch as far as bringing it up. The one thing that I can't do though, is you can see in the front of the tire where it's hitting, and then on the rear of the tire that it's about 1 inch, 1.5 inches away. I think that's from, the car's been smashed, you know, so the front end got hit in the front and pushed down. So I think because it got in a collision that it's actually pushing the fender down and into the tires. All right, I'm just gonna snug the top 2 jam nuts back together again, as I don't want to mess with the spring rate. I don't think it's necessary right now. So I'll jam these back up tight together. If these aren't jammed up tight together, they'll just spin when you try to adjust the ride height. So make sure those are jammed together. Now I can just turn this lower nut or jam nut. Yep, so the whole thing's turning. Now I'll just adjust this down 1 inch. Thing that I don't like about the rears, it's not the biggest deal, but you can see there's a bit of a gap between the strut and the hub assembly. The fronts were really nice and tight. Those slipped right in. It'll draw in with the bolts, but it just seems kind of odd that the rears have so much bigger of a gap than the fronts. But I could have some other odd stuff going on with my rear assembly too. This car's been piecemealed together a few times. So anyway, let me get the wheels and tires on and let's see what it looks like on the ground. The car back on the ground now. After lifting the coilovers up about 1 inch, you can see I've got pretty decent wheel clearance above the top here. Maybe about 1 inch of clearance. The front is bad. It's almost touching right now. I'm going to take it outside and hook my truck to it and see if I can pull the front end out a little bit to get some clearance there. So the plan to get a little bit more tire clearance is, well, tied some toe straps on the truck and attach them to underneath the bumper mounts. So I'm thinking that we pull up a little bit, and pulling up is going to pull that out. So let's see what happens. All right, let me set the emergency brake a little better. So first attempt was a miserable failure. Car just rolled a little bit. I set the emergency brake more, chuck wheels, but I think we're just going to pull it right over the wheel chocks. I don't think we're getting anywhere. So what was your plan, Caitlin?
That we either put another person in the blue car or move this to the street so we can actually put some power into the truck.
Let's get Mom. She's going to love this. We'll put her in the car.
Do you want to back up some so I have a little bit more space to work with?
No, then I got to retighten the strap. So let's just get Mom to sit in the car and we'll try it again.
All right.
So the fourth plan. We've got Caitlin ready in the truck. We got Susan sitting in the car with her foot. You got your foot tight on the brake? All right. All right, Caitlin. Yep. All right, let's call that done. We did something. You know what? Hang on a minute. We got some progress. I think we need to do that one more time. Did you have your foot all the way on the brake?
Yes! Did you have me scream?
Hang on a second, Kate.
I don't like this. I feel like my life is flashing before my eyes.
All right, Caitlin, let's give it one more shot. Is your foot all the way on the brake?
Yes!
All right. Well, give it one more quick jerk. One more. Yeah, if we hit Haley's Jeep, it'll be all right. Give it one more. All right. Let's say that we're not making progress anymore. Are we done now?
Yes, I want to be done.
All right, we're done now. Thank you for your help.
I feel like my life flashed before my eyes.
I got the ride height kind of settled where I think I like it anyway. You can see there's about 3/4 of an inch above the front and rear. Well, the rear tires are about 1.5 inches. It sits up a little higher, but the fronts, because 215/60 R17s, are pretty tight on these cars. I really raised it up quite a bit too. I bet you I raised it up 1.5 inches or so to get it, because my car smashed so hard on the front end that you can see the front bumper's pretty close to the tire. I did some pulling to try to get that, but and then you can see the rears. I got the rears adjusted up a little bit higher. Yeah, I kind of like it. Just to sum up the cheap Subaru cost now, I just went from $2,900 to $3,900 in a matter of about a month on a few purchases. What I did is I bought some BlizzX tires and tuning sport wheels. Those are pretty nice, great for the winter time. I bought a stainless steel catback exhaust. That was a eBay purchase. Pretty decent exhaust for the money. And then the Maxpedian rod coilovers. I also put those on the car. And then I had to buy some end links and some other miscellaneous things for the car. So that just tacked on another $1,000. So it went up from $2,900 to $3,900. But there's a lot of cool stuff in here. Really, I mean, my budget was a total of $4,500. I'm still $600 under. I've got a set of 17 by 8 rims that I still didn't get tires for. That $600 will get me tires for that, no problem. And I might have still a couple extra bucks left over. So $4,500 budget, and I've done some pretty cool stuff, and I'm still under budget right now. So it's been a fun project. right, Susan, it's a little cold outside right now. Susan and I are going to go for a quick ride. As far as performance-wise,
I think it handles good.
yeah, I think cornering is a lot better. I think as far as bumps, like, we're getting on the freeway right now. As far as bumps, my first adjustment, I think the suspension kind of rode like an F250. We made some adjustments to the suspension, and now it rides a little bit better, but it's a little bouncy. So I think there's a combination between adjustments, how bouncy you want the car, or how firm you want the ride. So I don't know that you can get a split between F-150 and not so bouncy. So I think we got a fair median right now. As far as handling, Susan, what do you think?
I think it handles great.
Yep.
It's just really bumpy. You're gonna feel every bump in the road.
Yeah, I agree with that. What do you think as far as, I think it's definitely a little bit more bouncy since I made the last adjustment to the suspension.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. I don't know that, what's,
We just
yes.
hit another bump.
So that's a confirmation. The car is much more bouncy than it was before. But I think that's the trade-off you get with, a suspension. And to be honest with you, it was only $380. I mean, for all 4 coilovers. So it wasn't very expensive. The big thing I was trying to get out of the car is one of my struts were completely bad, so one of the rear tires were just bouncing down the road. So with that being said, I think it's a lot better, and the car is going to be fun to drive as long as you don't mind being bounced around like an F-250. I think it'll be fine. Yep, there you go again.
Thanks for watching 33 Mile Garage.